Immigration. I guess that's in the news now. Immigrants crossing the border by the thousands. Of course, most of us don't like it. But we need to realize that we all too were immigrants at one time. I think it's the fear of what are these people going to do? And of course, they're not coming here legally, so a lot of us think about maybe a lot of them are criminals or they're coming up here to get on the system. I know several people who have come here illegally and had kids, and then their kids are on the system, which I don't particularly like that myself either. But the majority of the people that come here are coming here to work, coming here to do the jobs that our Americans won't do. We have a terrible lack of laborers and skilled laborers. If you look around here, all the landscape, not all, probably 90% of the landscapers are Hispanic from Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, because they'll work. If there wasn't a demand for these people to work, they would not be coming here. We have a demand because we live in such a paradise here that a lot of us don't even have to work. Few men know what physical work is anymore, at least in my area. Even some of the construction work, the people that keep the electric going, sometimes you go past them. Granted, if there's a storm, those guys are out there when nobody else wants to be out there. But we went by a job site the other day where they were doing something, and there was, I'm not joking, 25 people standing around the first time we went by, and one guy running a machine. The second time we went by, it was the same thing. A couple of guys might have been working, the rest of them are standing around. And this is common when you see it on construction sites. Because we have so many machines now, a lot of times the men just have to run the machines. They have a couple inspectors. It's just incredible. Although I must admit, on my job sites, sometimes we'll all be standing there because one guy has to do something or we're waiting for something. But this is something that you see happen every day. So we've just got used to the machines doing the work for us, but there is still manual labor that needs to be done, and most people don't want to do that. I know around here in the construction business, which I'm in, these people will pay for concrete laborers $30 to $35 an hour cash, then it's up to the person to pay his taxes. They can't find people to work. I guarantee you what I saw today, I watched a report on the Darien Gap, which I was not familiar with, but immigrants come from all over the world to South America because they can get in there. And then they'll go to Colombia, and they go through the jungles of Colombia, a place called the Darien Gap, to Panama, and they work their way up to the US to cross the border. They go for days without food, maybe, without water. Many of them die going through this gap. It's the most intense, thickest part of the jungle in South America. Very dangerous. I say it all the time. People die to get here for the opportunity that so many of us, including myself, I have too, taken for granted. We live in a fucking paradise. We do. And we don't even know it. We don't even know it. I was watching this, and I've known people that's crossed illegally. Actually, 20 years ago, my wife at the time worked for the hospital. She translated, and they had brought a couple in there with their daughter that they were dehydrated. They were in bad shape. And so my wife went there to translate, and they had made the border crossing. They'd come from Mexico, and they'd spent I don't know how many days in Arizona walking without food or water. So they were in a bad state of dehydration. Just to get here, to have an opportunity to have a life. You have no understanding unless you've been out there. And I've been there, but I still don't grasp the desperation that these people have to get to the place where many of us complain about it. None of you guys, none of my 1,482 subscribers complain about this. You guys appreciate America. I know you do. But I'm talking about those other people. I've complained myself, but it almost makes me ashamed of myself for complaining about some of the things I complain about. When I see these people coming from places like India and some countries I had never heard of to South America so they could make the dangerous trek, risking their life to get to America just to have an opportunity to have a better life. This one gentleman was persecuted because he was Islam and he converted to Christianity. He was jailed and tortured and he escaped. And if he goes back, they'll kill him. So that's just one story of many. But so many people in the world live daily not knowing if they're going to live or die because they don't have enough food or clean water. And I turn the faucet on, I let it run until it gets cold because I want cold water, and just let that water run right out. We have such an abundance here in the U.S. And my whole message today is to have some gratitude. I need to have more gratitude and appreciation for what we have here. The opportunities abound, but yet I hear people complaining about oppression and how tough it is here. And do you know what one of the main things that people that make it here talk about? They don't understand why people here complain. We don't know what oppression is compared to 85% of the world. We take it for granted. And I'm as guilty as anybody. I remember when I lived in Guatemala, we went for years without a refrigerator. Sometimes for months I didn't have a stove, washer or dryer, not even forget about a dryer. I went for years without that. You managed to learn how to get by. And that was nothing compared to the way most of the people live there. And what that did for me, it gave me a more, it expanded my view of what most of the world lives like and gave me an appreciation that I never had before. I think every high school kid should go to a third world country for 6 months or a year and live with the poverty. He would come back here and make our nation a better nation because he would appreciate it and have gratitude for what he has. What do they say? Strong men make good times make weak men make hard times. We're in the era of weak men now. Our youth are weak, they're spoiled, they're coddled, they're snowflakes. And that's one of the reasons I started this channel, was to help men to grow up to be men. Do you want to talk about men? Let's talk about men. These men, sometimes women, but mostly men, make this trek. Let me tell you what it is here. Through the Darien Gap, and this is just one of many places they have to endure hazards, hardships that most of us couldn't even imagine. Okay, it says, according to the Panamanian government, approximately 134,000 migrants crossed the Darien Gap en route to the United States in 2021. I doubt if they had their vaccine. What do you think? Okay, they probably weren't worried about that. And that's something else. We worry about things up here that are so minuscule because we live in such a coddled society. Anyway, I'll get off that subject. Okay. En route to the United States in 2021, up from just a couple of hundred people a decade ago. Nearly 30,000 of them were children. They're bringing their children here. They're risking their children's lives and their lives to have an opportunity that most of us can't even see. We have a flat tire on a car and we just have a fit. Oh man, it's $20 to change the flat tire. You got a car. 85% of the people, and I'm not sure if I'm exactly around it, in the world don't have cars. You know what kind of problems we have here? Luxury problems. Luxury problems. And don't get me wrong, I catch myself complaining about things too. So I know if I point the finger at anybody out there, there's three of them pointing back at me. But as I said, we need to appreciate what we have here. We need to be grateful for this wonderful, beautiful land we live in. Sure, the governments are corrupt, whatever. What government hasn't been corrupt? From the beginning of time, all governments become corrupt because they have people in them, and people are fallible. We all make mistakes. God knows I've made plenty myself. And everybody in the government is just a person, and they all make mistakes. And sometimes it's a corrupt mistake. Sometimes they get caught, sometimes they don't. But in general, look at what you have here. I'm sitting here in my home. No bars on the windows. My doors are unlocked. I mean, there's some drug addicts around here. They walk past here occasionally. They don't bother me. Excuse me, someone's at the door. I'm making a video. Here I am, 6 kids in my home. I'm able to support my 6 children by myself. I don't have to rely on the government. I have a business. I have the YouTube channel. I've published 2 books. Do you think someone that was raised up in Nepal, India, in the poor section could do that? Do you think people in Latin America do that? The majority of them, no. It's not that they don't have the capacity to do it, or the wisdom or the brains to do it. They just are restricted because the opportunities are so few. And they're raised in poverty. You know, people complain about rich people being crooked or dishonest. Go live in an impoverished country. Those people sometimes, many times, are dishonest, and they steal because they have to eat, to live, to survive in their environment. They don't do it just to get ahead. They do it to survive. Few people here in the States know anything about survival. You got guys walking. There was one guy that walked through there, and he was from India, as I said. He's been gone for months, and he's got months ahead of him to try to get to the U.S. He's not sure if he's going to make it. Many people die. He hadn't talked to his mom for quite some time. He's worried that she's worried about him. These are men. These are like the men of old. And I know some of my detractors out there are going to say, you need to go back to the 13th century. And that's because the people that hate on me when I speak about things like this, they are so coddled. They have no idea what it's like in the real world. They have no idea that men actually risk their lives to get here for the opportunity that they take for granted, that they piss on because they don't want to get up and do something as a man or work. These people leave their home where they were born for a thousands of mile journey that they may not even be able to complete. They may die before they get there. The chances are good that they're going to get seriously hurt or killed or die or something before they get here. But they take that chance. What did you have to do this morning? Get up, go to McDonald's, buy a burger? Well, none of my guys here, we don't do that. But some of them other people that just started watching. What did you have to do? Today, you know what I get to do? I get to go to Deerberg's and buy some food. Now, I don't normally go to Deerberg's because we don't have one in town, so I got to drive a little ways. And I'll be able to buy some dates. There's probably about 25 of them in the box. They're $7 or $8 a box. The reason I buy them there is because they're fresher, they're better, they're more quality than the food you buy at like Kroger's or if you go to an Aldi's or something. But we live better than kings and queens did in the Middle Ages, in past times. I wish, I would like to see people become more aware of what these immigrants are going through to get here. And I'm not saying we should let everybody in our borders, but isn't there some way that we could help these desperate people? I mean, maybe weed out the criminals somehow and the people that really want to come here and work, because our people, our men, don't want to work anymore, most of them. Everybody goes to college thinking that's going to be able to maintain our infrastructure and society. No, we need workers here. We need people who can get out there with their hands and work. And I'm telling you what, these Spanish and people who come from other countries, they'll work. They'll work 12, 16 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. and be grateful for it. They won't be saying, I have to get up and go to work. I get to get up and go to work today. I get to make this video today. I get to go out and work tomorrow. It's a habit we develop. I have to go to work. Do you know how many people in the world wish they were in your shoes? Could get up tomorrow and go make the money you make? Could live in the house that you live in? If this is pissing you off, then you need to take a look at your life. Because you got it made here in the USA. I got a food pantry right up the street. If you're going hungry here in the US, it's because you ain't sticking your hand out for something to eat. Other countries, other people don't have anything to give you to eat. Paradise, I'm telling you, this is paradise. All right, so if we go on down here, here it is. Is it safe to cross the Darien Gap? Let me tell you how safe it is. There are no paths to travel through, and it is one of the most impenetrable pieces of jungle on the planet, teeming, overflowing, with venomous snakes, plants, and others. If you run into hostile individuals or get bitten by a venomous snake, your chances to come out of it are pretty slim. To say nothing about the drug cartels and the traffickers, human traffickers. Now they have guides down there. This show that I watched, it was a guide taking people through there. And there was one guy on there, and he was for another guy from, I think from India or Iran, one. He was traveling by himself. He had no food. He only had water. He was overweight. I guess he assumed that, or he was heavy. I guess he assumed that that would carry him through. He hadn't eaten for days, and he was happy. He was happy because he had the opportunity to get here. He was not even in Panama yet, but he dreamed of coming here to the U.S., the same as those people dreamed a long time ago. And I know a lot of you might say, well, yeah, let them come here legally. I understand. My first ex-wife, I've had more than one, as you know. My latest ex-wife came here legally, and it cost hundreds of dollars. Well, thousands probably. She had to go through the process in the system. And is it fair to those people who cross the border illegally if they don't have to pay? Is it fair to the people who had to pay and come here legally? I mean, what do you consider fair? Do you think life's fair? Well, if you do, you better get over that right now, because life isn't fair. And if any government official, I promise you that they're going to make it fair, don't listen to them. That's kind of like the saying, if you meet Buddha on the road, kill him, because it's not Buddha. So, who's paid the most? Did my ex-wife pay the most? Did we pay the most to get her here? Or are these people paying the most that are risking their lives, traveling thousands of miles on foot through dangerous, treacherous jungles, criminals, cartel? Who's paying the most if they make it here? It's easy for us to look at those people. Oh, they're not Americans. Make them stay out. God, send them back to where they came from. Maybe we could all do a little research to find out how they're getting here, why they're coming here, and maybe how we could help them. I'm not saying to let them in, but how we could help them somehow. I mean, we live in the richest country in the world, the most prosperous time in the history of humanity. And we have people that are coming from other countries because they're starving, they can't feed their families, risking their lives, leaving their families to come here so they can somehow make a better life for themselves and their family. When we sit here, fat, rich, we probably throw enough food away a day in the U.S. to feed the rest of the world. I throw food away because my kids are they won't eat leftovers. They're so used to this abundance that we have. And let's talk about the overweight and obesity. 70 to 75% of the U.S. population is obese or overweight. And these people are starving. and risking their lives and trekking thousands of miles through dangerous situations to get here, not knowing if they're going to make it. What can we do to help them? I'm not sure. But I've asked myself, what can I do to help these people? Sure, some of them coming here are criminals. Yeah, well, guess what? Some of us who live here are criminals too. That's for sure. Should we just allow them to come over thousands through the border like they're doing without any kind of accountability? No, I don't think so. Do I have the answers? I don't. But surely, with all the educated people we have in our society, some of them could group together and come up with some theme that would work for both of us, the U.S. citizens and these people who are desperate to have a halfway decent life. The poor people in the U.S. live better than the poor people in the U.S. are rich compared to these people that are coming here. As I said, I don't know what the answer is, but I think we all need to be more conscious that we live in a global society. And whatever we deny people, we eventually are denying ourselves. Think about that today and be grateful for what you have. I need to do the same thing, to be grateful for the wonderful life I have. And not be so damn cynical and critical about, send them son of a bitches back. They ain't got no business over here. We don't need them. Actually, we do need them, as I said. They're doing the physical labor up here. I see it everywhere. Hispanics, people from Iranians, different people like that, they're working. They're working hard. They're contributing to our society. The only maybe slight downfall is they send their money back home. But how can you blame them for wanting to help their families? I'm sure when many of our immigrants came over here, we sent money back to our families in the old country. But they're producing. They're coming here to work. I don't know what the percentage is, but I bet it's 90, because I've met a lot of them. And they're hard workers. The biggest majority, I would say 90 to 95% or more, are here working. Even the ones I told you about that had kids and their kids are on the system, they're working. And they work hard. They just take advantage of the opportunities here that many of us take for granted. So that's all I have today. I'm done with my rant. If you'd like to get my help personally, marksinspiration.com is my website. I have consulting sessions half off in the month of September. If you're watching this on Instagram, check me out on YouTube at Mark Daniels, Mark's Inspiration. I always got some, check out my books on Amazon, Coming Back Home, The True Adventure of Mark Daniels, and The Power is Within by Mark Daniels. As you know, some of you, I lived in Latin America for 6 years. I made the trek up through Central America and Mexico to get back home, but I took a bus. I didn't have to walk like these people are. And I had food, I had water, I had a little money. So nothing compared to what they are going through. Really, the whole purpose of this message is to help you to understand how fortunate we are and to maybe instill a little gratitude in you as well as myself, because gratitude is an attitude and it brings more of the same to be grateful for. More things in your life to be grateful for. So I'm out of here. Take care. Thanks for joining me. And thank you to my 1,482 subscribers. You're the reason I'm here.